Hello and welcome to my as of yet unnamed YouTube thing. For this first video here, I'm going to be reading a fan fiction by the name of Garfield, King of Liberty. There's a little bit of background. I heard this read during a bad fan fiction reading competition at a convention that I went to, and they only read an excerpt, but I think it's about time that we read the whole thing together, so let's go. Garfield, King of Liberty. Author's note: I heard Children of America was not educated in history, and I wrote this story for educational entertaining. I hope you are learning and having fun when reading this. Knowing what comes next, I don't think that's actually possible to have fun while reading this. It was the year 1770X, and the Empire of England was spreading terror with conquest. King George III was invading lands for plunder for lasagna. With lasagna, King George III fueled robotic army of mechanical menace. America was last hope, and King George III was determined with determination to rule it for lasagna conquest and steal its precious lasagna resource. Founding fathers and the Constitution were at constitutional conventions discussing plans for last resistance. I'm going to go out ahead and say here, I have not edited any of this. The grammar is just this bad. Continuing on, George Washington, you must fight for American freedom and lead us to victory, said the Constitution with orders. Do not be fool. George Washington is not man enough for such responsibility, argued Thomas Jefferson with disagreements. He is right. I alone cannot fight the fight of freedom, George Washington cried with tears. You, insolence! If no one is man enough to fight for freedom, America will fall, scolded the Constitution with... The Constitution's a person now. The Constitution with anger. Fear not, for I have found the true man and warrior of freedom, Benjamin Franklin reassured with confidence. What? Cried out everyone with surprise. It is true. Look at your heart and your eyes will believe, said Benjamin Franklin, pointing at figure in the doorway. In doorway walked orange figure of amazing power. His muscles rippled with American pride and freedom. As he walked in, rockin' music played and giant American flag waved behind him. As he stepped, cawing eagles were heard. Garfield? Cried out everyone in shock. This is right, you founding failures. Time to stop your tears and ready the fists of war, Garfield said with scolding words. But English armies are outnumbering us by many men, Thomas Jefferson anguished with despair. I am the Minuteman. I only need 1 minute for every man, Garfield said with incredible coolness. Very good, you are real man. You are now 5-star general, commanded the Constitution with orders. Very well, we must plan strategies. We will meet at Mount Vernon, Garfield ordered. Later on at Mount Vernon, George Washington was making discussion with Martha Washington. As woman, I hate war, but we need to liberate our freedom, said Martha Washington with feminine instincts. It is true, I thought all hope was lost, but we have new ace in our holes, said George Washington with confidence. Oh God, they're talking about holes. Is this the Garfield? Asked Martha Washington with wonder. He is true miracle man. With him by our lead, we cannot lose, George Washington said with great respect for Garfield. Suddenly there was manly knocking at the front door. There he is. Soon you will see for yourself, George Washington said as she went to door for opening. As George Washington opened door, Garfield walked in with feet of patriotism. Garfield, it is good to be seeing you on this fine day. Do you care for tea? Asked George Washington with gracious offers. Enough nonsense. Tiny talk is for tiny men. Now is time for action, Garfield said with stoic manhood. I am sorry, Garfield. Forgive me, for I am nothing compared to you, George Washington apologized with deep sorrow. Do not cry, you woman, Garfield roared as he slapped George Washington in the face to stop his girlish tears. Yes, you are right. There is no time for crying. Please come to War Room for strategies, George Washington said as he led Garfield to War Room. Garfield came on War Room where Thomas Jefferson, John Adams, and Benjamin Franklin were also reading. In War Room, there was table with strategies and figures of Redcoat English and all American Eagle soldiers. This is very long. This is my strategy. Wait, I'm sorry, pardon. Here, Garfield, come look. Please tell us your strategies, said John Adams with planning in his minds. Garfield stared at table with knowing in his eyes. He then took mighty fists and smashed the table into pieces, crushing redcoat figures. This is my strategy, roared Garfield with burning justice. All in room stood up and applauded Garfield's bold move of brilliance. You are courageousness, said Benjamin Franklin with admiration of Garfield. I wish I was as much man as Garfield, thought George Washington in his thoughts. After meeting, Garfield walked out with George Washington. As Garfield walked with bravery, Martha Washington looked on and admired Garfield's rugged, handsome courage and toned body. Garfield, we owe you gratitude. Would you like anything for relaxation? Asked George Washington with humbleness. Give me real food for real man and real American. Give me lasagna, Garfield requested with hunger. You have gotten it. Bring out all American lasagna at once, said George Washington with obedience to Garfield. At George Washington's request, red, white, and blue lasagna stuffed with patriotism and cheese was brought out for Garfield's enjoyment. Leave me to my lasagna, commanded Garfield to George Washington. I'm going to take a moment here and say that if you've seen the video Garfield, I really wish that I could do the Garfield voice when I do Garfield here, because that'd be absolutely fantastic. After George Washington left with obeying Garfield spent his relaxing time eating lasagna-filled America. As Garfield enjoyed his lasagna, he heard sexy music and smelled perfume coming from other room. What is that sex beat? Garfield wondered as he went for exploration. Garfield went into room for seeing and saw Martha Washington on bed of roses and holding flower in her mouth. She was in sexy lingerie which showed hot body. There was sexy champagne there for drinking and room was filled with romance. Garfield, I am hoping you would come, Martha Washington said with desire. I could not resist sexy scent of hot American woman, Garfield said slyly as he sat down on bed, picked up champagne bottle for opening. That's all one sentence, by the way. Garfield, when I see you, I have felt the feelings inside my body. I sweat with patriotic desire, said Martha Washington as she rubbed Garfield's back. I'm going to go ahead and say right now that this is already better than Kids of Liberty, or the Liberty's Kids. No more worrying, my colonial cupcake. I will start a revolution in your body, Garfield said as he tore his shirt to reveal perfect manly muscles. Take me now and show me your musket, said Martha Washington, taking off nightgown to reveal supple, sexy orbs. Oh, God. Can we ban the word orbs for use as a metaphor in all forms of writing? Every time somebody refers to eyes as orbs, and I know this doesn't mean eyes, but anytime anything is referred to as orbs, it's automatically bad. Then again, that's really the least of this thing's problems. This gun never needs reloading, Garfield said with wink as he undid pants and embraced Martha Washington for serious loving. They embraced and melded bodies for intense loving, shaking with passion and vigority. Come visit my Washington monument. It is free of charge, said Garfield with seduction as he thrust into Martha Washington with his mighty hips. Garfield, you make me see fireworks, cried out Martha Washington with ecstasy. I am going to liberate your body with pleasure, Garfield said as he licked her all over. Come to me, my lover man, shouted Martha Washington as she felt Garfield firepower invade her base. Their lovings continued on to the night, and their shoutings of ecstasy was being heard louder than gunshots of war. The next morning, Garfield and Martha Washington awoke in bed in each other's arms, savoring moments. Garfield, you made me feel like new woman. Must you fight? Can you not stay here with me where we can create patriotic pleasure? That was a fistful to read. Asked Martha Washington with longing. Sorry, sugar cubes, but I am warrior. Land of America needs my man muscle more than you, Garfield said with determination. Then, with suddenness, George Washington walked into room to alert Garfield to happenings. Garfield, it is urgent. Redcoats are attacking Boston City, USA. George Washington said with panic. It is time, Garfield said, putting on manly leather gloves for fighting readiness. Garfield, please be careful. If you are injured, my tears would scream with crying. My tears would scream with crying. Martha Washington cried out with worry. I'm going to point out here that George Washington just walked on Garfield fucking his wife, and that was okay. That was perfectly fine. We're gonna keep going here. Oh, Garfield, swooned Martha Washington with swooning. Enough of the silly chatting. Let us ride, said Garfield as he boarded his mighty, shimmering stallion. Surprisingly not a metaphor given the last section. Garfield and George Washington rode to Colonial Battlefield where redcoats were marching with invasion. Invade America and take all their lasagna, ordered Redcoat Commander with wickedness. The liberty of lasagna will not be stolen by fiends, roared Garfield as he took out his desert eagles for firing. Garfield? Cried out Redcoat soldiers with fear and despair. These colors do not run, and neither do these bullets, said Garfield as he rained storms of lead down on Redcoat armies. I want that on a t-shirt. These colors do not run, and neither do these bullets, with a picture of Colonial Garfield with 2 guns. Sounds amazing. After a Redcoat army was defeated, Garfield approached Redcoat Commander, who was cowering with surrender. I feel like they skipped some events here. Garfield, I am defeated, but war has just begun. Soon America lasagna will be property of the king, declared Redcoat Commander with defiance. I am seeing you are liking the wearing of red. Let me make your face match your coat, quipped Garfield as he shot the Redcoat's commander's face with his Desert Eagle. Good job, Garfield. You have fought back invasion, said George Washington with gratitude. Can we discuss the fact that every single piece of dialogue ends with said, the name of the person who said it, and then with, and then an adjective? Every time we got with gratitude here. I'm going to point out the next one. In distance, figures came to Garfield. It was John Adams and Abigail Adams ready to give Garfield congratulations for victory. Okay, I didn't read this far before, and I don't know who Abigail Adams is, but if Garfield and Abigail Adams have sex, I will be disappointed, but then anyway surprised. Garfield, you are a true American hero. With your help, American lasagna will be free from imperialism. Thanked John Adams with heartfeltness. There it is again. No problem, but war is just beginning, Garfield said with steadfast strength again. As the men talked of men's business, Abigail Adams eyed Garfield and could not stop her heart from desiring him. Abigail Adams noticed minor scratch on Garfield's large shoulder and knew what to do. I said I wouldn't be surprised, but I am still very disappointed. Garfield, you are injured. Let me take good care of you, said Abigail Adams as she led Garfield to nursing tent. As they entered, Abigail Adams turned on her cassette player to Loverboy and pulled Garfield next to her. You look tense. Let me rub you for relaxation, said Abigail Adams with whispering into Garfield's ear. This is good, but the muscle that really needs relaxing is down there, said Garfield, pointing to his pants. I see it is time for mouth massage, said Abigail Adams with lust. You have been naughty girl. Time for some corporal punishing, Garfield said sexily, as he put Abigail Adams on lap and spanked her. Whose lap? Whose lap did he put her on? His lap? Because it just says on lap. Garfield, spank me with meteor force, cried out Abigail Adams in ecstasy. I hope nobody I know ever listens to this. Garfield spanks Abigail Adams with mighty hands, bringing her spanking pleasure of the highest quality. Meanwhile, in land of England, King George III was lounging in throne room of silk and sin, swimming in gold and stolen lasagna. While King George III was lounging, Minion came for reporting. Please tell me that the bad grammar just used the term minion here because it's a shitty term for underling and not because it's really about to be minions in this story. Master, I have bad news. Our invading soldiers have been defeated by force of might, cried the minion with cowering. What say you, you grub? Shouted King George III with raging anger. It's true, colonial forces have Garfield on their side, said Minion with crying. If this is the case, then it is time to step up the crank to 11, said George III with snarl. What will we do for battle plans? Asked Minion with wondering. It is time for full-scale invasion with my lasagna-powered mechanical monstrosities. Power up my airship at once, ordered King George III with finger pointing to sky. Yes, my master, responded Minion with obedience. This is worse. I think I'd rather reread the Garfield sex scene with Abigail, whomever. Soon America will be my playground and its lasagna will be mine. Not even Garfield can stop me. King George III cackled King George III with sinister evil. Meanwhile, back in America, Garfield and Abigail Adams were enjoying intimacies. I guess I get my wish. I guess I can't even complain at this point because I said that I would rather read this. Was exhausted with pleasure. Garfield could go on longer, but did not want to kill her with exhaustion. You play rough, and I like that, said Abigail Adams with satisfaction. I'm gonna indicate now that anytime I pause while reading dialogue, I put that in there because there is no punctuation in the dialogue at all. I fight hard and play harder, said Garfield with a wink as he sat back and smoked lasagna cigarette. After a moment of relaxing, Abigail Adams got out to make morning cup of tea for her man Garfield and wanted making it to be just right. How are you wanting your tea? Asked Abigail Adams with dutifulness. I like my tea like I like my women, sweet and creamy, said Garfield as he slapped Abigail Adams on rear with flirting. Oh, Garfield, you know how to make me feel like a lady, said Abigail Adams with blushing. All of a sudden, moments of romance were interrupted by emergency sirens which signaled invasion.
I would not call that romance.
Time to earn my payment, Garfield with clenching fist and loading Desert Eagles. Garfield, I know the destiny of the fighting man is to fight, but please be careful. I will pray for your safety, cried out Abigail Adams with sad acceptance. I wish I could do voices. I'm going to work on that. Garfield looked at Abigail Adams with chiseled face of stoic manliness and opened his mouth. Pray for my enemies, Garfield said with calm coolness as he walked off. Garfield traveled to White House, which was being attacked by giant mechanical redcoat with laser musket. Feed me meal of lasagna, demanded robot redcoat with mechanical voice. The only meal you will be served is Fist of Vengeance, served extra cold, Garfield roared as he plunged manly fist into robot redcoat's giant mechanical heart. Looks like this meal has given you heartburn, quipped Garfield as he crushed robot heart in his hand. That doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. I don't know if I can really blame this fanfiction for not making sense at this point. Agah! Cried out giant robot redcoat as it exploded into shrapnel and debris. Garfield stood on robot debris celebrating victories of battle, but soon he heard noises. It was English airships surrounding him. Their cannons were aimed at Garfield with accuracy of pins. Then, with wicked entrance, King George III rode on flagship. Haha, Garfield, behold the chariot of your death. It will be last sight for you as you are dragged to hell, snarled King George III with madness in his eyes. All hope had seemed lost, but all of a sudden, a familiar voice was heard by all. I'm not even sure how to pronounce that. Amaku! Or maybe Amako. Either way. It was John Arbuckle riding on Bald Eagle and carrying the Liberty Bell. This bell is tolling for you, cried out John Arbuckle as he rung Liberty Bell, sending shockwaves with everywhere stunning redcoat armies. Thank you, John Arbuckle. Now the turn is mine. Cried out Garfield as he lunged fist into sky with speed of soaring hawk, causing hurricane tornado to form, sending redcoat battleships to destruction, leaving only King George III. That was all one sentence. There was no pause there. They at no point indicated that I was supposed to breathe while reading this, and I have to apologize for the enigmatic delivery here, but the punctuation is just so bad in this. My fist is a Category 6, said Garfield as he looked on at destruction. Garfield turned to King George III, ready to make him pay for the sins of his crimes. The sins of his crimes. You are Kerr. I am King of England. Kneel before me, roared out King George III in defiance. If Garfield fucks King George III's wife... You are forgotten. You may be King of England, but I am King of Liberty, declared Garfield as he took King George III's by the neck. Let go of my royal neck, you peasant man. Yelled out King George III in protest. For crimes against humanity and lasagna, I judge you guilty, said Garfield with mighty justice as he tore King George III's head off. Looks like you have lost your head, said Garfield with coolness as he tossed King George III's body on Lady Liberty's torch. I'm going to go ahead and point out that that's actually not accurate. I get that the whole of this is not accurate, but the Statue of Liberty didn't show up for a long time after this. Arg! Cried out King George III as he burned in Lady Liberty's torch. Order of grilled king, extra crispy, quipped Garfield as he turned away. None of these jokes really connect. At King George III's fiery endings, remaining redcoat soldiers cried out in despair for the fallen leader. No, what will we do? Our king is gone, wept the English soldiers in sorrow. You must look forward to days of tomorrow. Your king was mad with power and blind with madness. He could not see his path was path of ruining and chaos. Garfield lectured with calm wisdom, filling Englishmen with hope. Thank you, Garfield. You have filled us with the inspiration of a better tomorrow. We will rebuild our country of England in your honor, said the English soldiers with gratitude as they went home to England for rebuilding. In distance, Garfield saw figures. It was George Washington, John Adams, and Benjamin Franklin coming for congratulations. Garfield, you have saved America. Thank you, said John Adams, shaking Garfield's hand. Garfield, you have taught me true meanings of manhood. Will you not stay and rule this country as first president? George Washington asked with begging. I am sorry, but desk jobs are for broken-down old man, not man in prime of virility. Garfield responded with declining. Very well, Garfield, but at least enjoy Lincoln bedroom for personal enjoyment, said Benjamin Franklin as he tossed him keys. Thank you, I think I know good uses for this. I thought we were done with this. Garfield said with a smirk as he put his arms around Martha Washington and Abigail Adams for walking to Lincoln bedroom. George Washington, John Adams, and Benjamin Franklin gave Garfield thumbs up as he walked into Lincoln bedroom for lady pleasuring. Two of these men have their wives here. Two of these men's wives are involved with this, and it's just brushed off. When Garfield entered Lincoln bedroom, Abigail Adams and Martha Washington sat next to him on both sides, eager for sexual satisfaction. Garfield, you have flowered my womanhood. Now I need you to water me with loving, said Martha Washington as she chewed on Garfield's ears. Yes, Garfield, you have filled my heart with your love, and now it is ready to explode, said Abigail Adams as she brushed Garfield's hair with tenderness. No problem, my foxy first ladies, except for Abigail Adams. Was she? Maybe. I need to check. It may not be president, but I will be making you my secretaries of sexy, Garfield said as climbed on Martha Washington and Abigail Adams for love-makings. As Garfield began his patriotic duties, he heard someone enter room. He turned around and hot and eager sexy woman was standing there. It was Lady Liberty.
Oh no.
Did I come back?
I have another torch for you, but it might be too hot for you to handle, said Garfield with seduction as he took Lady Liberty into his love nest for maximal lady pleasuring. Let our loving be so hot it melts through earth, said Lady Liberty as she ran her hands on Garfield's manly body. With these words, Garfield and his Liberty ladies made love of passion that sparked skies like fireworks as they rubbed their bodies like sand on water. Garfield delivered pleasure into the bodies like manly post office man delivering package of love explosion. Their love exploded like cannonball shots into the night and went on for hours and days. The end? There's a question mark as to whether or not this truly is the end. I'm going to go ahead and give this fanfiction a rating, because that seems to be what people on the internet do. Alrighty. It's absolutely fucking horrific. I will give them this. None of the words are misspelled, with the exception of the words that they made up, which obviously don't have a correct spelling. So I'll give them that. They did spell everything correctly, strictly speaking. I will also say that probably the worst part about this, other than the content itself, is the fact that every single section of dialogue has to read said, the name of the person who said it, with, and then an adjective. So asked Martha Washington with wonder, or said Martha Washington with feminine instincts, and that's bad, and it gets gross to read. So as far as grammar goes, I'm going to go ahead and give this a 4. 4 out of 10 because it's bad. As far as content goes, I have to judge this against the things that I've seen before, and it's not, strictly speaking, it's not the worst thing I've ever seen, so I'm going to have to go ahead and give this content a 2 out of 10. Thank you for listening to my bullshit. This is almost half an hour long. I apologize. I'm sorry you had to hear this. Bye.